You are listening to Däs Bündesliga Show on the Lock Betting podcast. You can follow the Lock Betting Twitter account at lockbetting.com. That's at lockbetting.com. If you want to sign up for the Lock Betting Patreon service, this is a service that has delivered 110 months in a row of transparent track profit. The Patreon website is lockbetting.com. That's lockbetting.com. If you want to see the P&Ls for the previous month, go to the Lock Betting Twitter account that I just mentioned. If you want to see other previous P&Ls, just go down to the bottom of that P&L. You'll see little tags. They say things like football, tennis, WNBA, MLB, etc. One of them says P&L. By clicking that, you'll be able to see all of the other previous P&Ls. When you look at a P&L, look at the type of stakes that we put out, look at the type of bets that we do, look at the sports that we bet on, and most importantly, look at the members' comments at the bottom, verifying the fact this service has delivered 110 months in a row of transparent track profit. That's 9 years and 2 months without a single losing month. Let's begin with our Bundesliga action. We begin with the Friday game today as Freiburg are at home to Bochum. Bochum are one of the favourites for relegation, whereas Freiburg were a surprise package last season, and they are usually very, very solid on their own turf. Freiburg here are the 1-2 favourites to win the game. It's 7-2 on the draw, and it's 5-1 here on Bochum. I like Freiburg to pick up the win here at the short price. I also would like to tack on over 2.5 goals here, which gets this selection into plus money territory at 11-10. Over 2.5 goals by itself is available at 4-6 minus 150. I like adding this on because Freiburg saw over 2.5 goals in each of their last 7 Bundesliga home games, whereas Bochum have seen their last 6 away league games produce over 2.5 goals. And finally, the visitors have conceded at least 3 times in each of their last 4 top flight away games. And that run began with a 3-0 defeat here in Freiburg. So I think Bochum are going to struggle this season. I think this should be a comfortable home win for Freiburg. I'm happy to tack on the over 2.5 goals, but I'm happy to take both selections individually. I would take the 4-6 minus 150 on the over as an individual play, and I would be looking for Freiburg as a parlay piece here to start off your weekend in the Bundesliga. Up next, we move on to the game here between Hertha Berlin and Borussia Dortmund, where Hertha Berlin are the 7-2 underdogs here. It's 16-5 on the draw, and Dortmund are 4-6 on the money line to bounce back from a horrible loss last weekend. That was a heartbreaker for us, what happened with Borussia Dortmund cruising to victory. We looked like we were going to cash the Dortmund and over 2.5 goals, as Werder Bremen did us a favour by scoring a goal in the 90th minute. They then went on to score in the 93rd minute and then the 95th minute to win the game. So heartbreaking for us, heartbreaking for Dortmund, who, despite being 2-0 up, weren't really great in that game. It looked like they were going to grind out a 1-0 win until they got a second goal. They're still missing Haaland in attack, despite the fact they are putting the ball into the net. They still look like they're missing that cutting edge. And defensively, they just absolutely capitulated. I am looking for them to bounce back here. This should be a good spot going up against a Hertha Berlin team who actually possessed the second worst defensive record in the Bundesliga last season. Dortmund have taken a lead in every single game so far this season, and Dortmund have scored 2+ goals and won in 3 of their last 4 visits to Hertha Berlin. So I think scoring 2+ goals here against Hertha should hopefully be enough. And I do like Dortmund to bounce back. If you shop around, you can get a better price than this minus 150. There is 7-10 available here for this selection. Up next, we look at the game here between Mons and Bayer Leverkusen, where Mons are the 13-8 underdogs here. It's 13-4 on the draw, and Leverkusen are the narrow 6-4 favourites. It's very, very difficult to take Bayer Leverkusen as a favourite here. Now, I understand at the start of the season, they were touted as a team who were going to do well and they should have comfortably made it into the Champions League. That now looks like their one sole ambition. Any chance of being an outsider for the title has gone, not just because Bayern Munich looks so strong, but because this Leverkusen team have lost all of their first 3 games, which basically makes them unbackable here. I mean, they've got odds that suggest that their chances of winning are at 42%, but even at these odds, they only win 25% of their games. So I think the best way to attack this game would be to go for the goals. Mons are without a clean sheet in this particular fixture in the last 10, while Leverkusen have actually scored first in 10 of the last 10 times these two teams have played. So it would be massively beneficial for Leverkusen to score first in this game, given that they've been trailing in every single game so far this season. They've also won the first half in 4 of the last 5 meetings. However, the form coming into this game is very, very different, which makes it even more difficult to back Leverkusen, given that Mons have no losses in the last 6 and Leverkusen have lost 4 in a row without a clean sheet in 5 games, and they've conceded first in 4 of the last 5. However, the strongest piece of data here for me is the fact that they have seen over 2.5 goals cash in 4 of the last 5, and the game that didn't was surprisingly their game against Borussia Dortmund, which should have been a shoe-in as an over. So we're going to ride the data here. We're going to go for an over. It is juicy. You do have to take it at 8-13. But I think given the way that Leverkusen have defended this season, there's no way that this one stays under 2.5 goals. So look for an exciting game here between two sides. And I can't really back a winner in this one because at some point Leverkusen need to get right. But at the same time, Mons are riding a good unbeaten streak into this game. They look strong. They're at home. And it makes it very, very, very difficult to take Leverkusen here in this spot, even at this buy low position. Up next, we look at the game here between RB Leipzig and Wolfsburg, where Leipzig are also looking for their first win of the season. They are the 1-2 favourites, -200 favourites to get it here. It's 15-4 on the draw, and it is 11-2 here on Wolfsburg. It's difficult, like Leverkusen, to back RB Leipzig because they've had a very disappointing start to the season so far as well. And given the way that teams have started this season, it's looking like Bayern Munich could have the Bundesliga won by February or March. It really is looking that ominous. As for this game, I do think Leipzig will get their first win of the season. I think it may be a cagey game. I think Wolfsburg will look to stop Leipzig playing here, which is why I like to tack on the under 4.5 goals, given that 3 of Wolfsburg's 4 competitive games this season have produced under 2.5 goals, and 6 of the last 7 head-to-heads at this venue have produced under 2.5 goals as well. Both sides are yet to win in the Bundesliga this season, so as I said, I think it will be a cagey game. I think it will be in line with the cagey games these two have played recently, but ultimately, I think this is a spot where Leipzig will get their first win of the season. So I like Leipzig to win. I think the 1-2 odds are a little bit short to consider them as a parlay piece, but I like to take Leipzig and tack on the under 4.5 goals here. That gets your selection to 10-11 -110, and I think that's how we're going to be tackling this game here between Leipzig and Wolfsburg. Up next, we move on to the game of the week. It's Bayern Munich at home to Borussia Mönchengladbach, two teams who have made a decent start to the season. Well, Bayern have made a more than decent start to the season. For Gladbach, they're just going to be happy to be where they are and started how they've started, given the way that they've played across the last 2 seasons. They are now starting to look a little bit more like Borussia Mönchengladbach. However, Bayern are still the strong 1-6 favourites at -600 to pick up the win here on the money line. It's 15-2 on the draw, and it's 12-1 on Borussia Mönchengladbach. I think this could be a game that delivers plenty of goals. The last time Bayern Munich played at home, they just grinded out a 2-0 win. I think this one will be very, very different, and I expect Gladbach to contribute towards the scoring. Both sides remain unbeaten in domestic action this season, and Bayern come into this having scored over 2 goals in 25 of their last 31 Bundesliga home games. However, Gladbach have also scored 2+ goals in 5 of their last 6 away league games. So I think this one will be a game that features goals. Ultimately, I think Bayern Munich will win. I also think Bayern Munich will cover the Asian handicap line here once again. And looking at the way Bayern have played so far, and looking at the way PSG have played in France, it's almost an automatic weekly parlay for me at the moment to take Bayern Munich and PSG to cover the 1.5 Asian handicap lines, and parlaying those two selections together, along with Lewandowski scoring for Barcelona and Mbappe scoring for PSG and maybe Haaland scoring for Manchester City, because we are seeing a lot of the same old stuff across Europe, which isn't particularly healthy for these European leagues when you're looking at France and Germany. But it's not Bayern's fault that they don't have any competition. They'll face a stiffer test this weekend against Borussia Mönchengladbach, but ultimately I think they'll come out of it and win this high-scoring game. I'm going to take Bayern Munich to win, and I'm going to tack on the over 3.5 goals. There's way too much juice on the over 2.5, which is obviously safer. You have to lay 1 to 3 minus 300 on that. But if you want to add on the over 3.5 goals, that selection is available at 4 to 5. So Bayern Munich to win and over 3.5 goals here, as we look for Gladbach to contribute towards a scoring, which is available, as I said, at 4 to 5 minus 125 here for your game of the week between Bayern Munich and Borussia Mönchengladbach. Up next, we move across to Sunday, where we will be tackling both of the Sunday games. We start with the game here between Cologne and Stuttgart, where Cologne are the 11 to 10 favourites. It's 5 to 2 on the draw, and it's 9 to 4 here on Stuttgart. This will be an interesting game. I think Stuttgart are a live dog here to come away with a surprising away win. Cologne just played in midweek and in Hungary, and they have to contend with making that trip back and having significantly less preparation time. Stuttgart's last victory came against none other than Cologne last season, and Stuttgart are unbeaten in 5 of their last 6 away league games. So I think they're a live dog here. I think there's value on them to avoid a defeat. So with Cologne being the 11 to 10 favourites, in fact, as short as even money in some places, you can oppose them and take Stuttgart on the double chance market at the best price of 8 to 11 to continue this solid away run and to pick up something here away to Cologne on Sunday. The final game we're going to look at here is between Werder Bremen and Eintracht Frankfurt, where Bremen are the 11 to 8 favourites coming off that win against Borussia Dortmund. It's 5 to 2 on the draw, and Frankfurt here are the 19 to 10 underdogs. I think Werder Bremen might be slightly overvalued here, coming off a good result away to Borussia Dortmund last weekend. I think the safest way to play this game would simply be to take both teams to score, which is available at 8 to 13. I'm surprised that it's available at this price, given that both teams have scored in all of Frankfurt's league games this season. Both teams have also scored in 9 of the last 11 head-to-head encounters between these two teams, and Werder Bremen scored 3 goals after the 90th minute last weekend, so they come into this in goal-scoring form. We just need them to score 1 here to cash their sided selection, with Eintracht Frankfurt also making their contribution to cash this both teams to score selection, which, as I said, is available at 8 to 13 for this one. Closing out with your lock on the show, we need a win on Däs Bündesliga Show the same way that Borussia Dortmund need a bounce back, and we're going to combine those two things together. There's actually lots of stuff that I do like on the Bundesliga card this weekend, and we've made a lot of money in the past taking Bayern Munich and over 3.5 goals, and I was tempted by that selection, and that should feature somewhere on the lockbetting.com official card this weekend. But we're going to go with Dortmund. Horrible loss. They'll be thinking about that. They'll be thinking about the fact they had that game won without playing very well. they still did enough to be 2-0 up. So that's definitely going to be on their mind all week. And I'll take a very focused Dortmund here to bounce back from that horrible result at the price of 7-10 on the money line. That's it for this edition of Däs Bündesliga Show. There will be more content coming to this lock betting podcast feed over the next couple of weeks. Just to let you know, this is where I'll be posting my Champions League reaction. So I'll be reacting to the Champions League draw and looking through the groups. I'll be giving my early analysis here on the Lock Betting Podcast. Of course, we're going to continue to put out Däs Bündesliga Show, and this is going to be the home of the NFL this season. So we will be releasing our NFL futures shortly here on the Lock Betting Podcast feed. Make sure you are subscribed to the podcast to receive podcasts automatically so you don't miss any plays. We are going to be breaking down the AFC and we're going to be breaking down the NFC individually, and we may also be putting out an additional show as well. That's it for me. Good luck with all your bets as always, and thanks for listening.